The phantom was shrouded in a deep black garment which concealed its head. Am I in the presence of the ghost of Christmas yet to come? Ghost of the future? I fear you more than any spectre I have seen. Will you not speak to me? It gave him no reply. The hand was pointed straight before them. I know, lead on, spirit. The city seemed to spring up about them as the spirit stopped beside one little knot of businessmen. Scrooge advanced to listen to their talk. No, said the great fat man with a monstrous chin. I don't know much. I only know he's dead. What has he done with his money? Asked the red-faced gentleman. Scrooge was at first inclined to be surprised that the spirit should attach importance to conversation apparently so trivial. They left the busy scene and went into an obscure part of the town, to a low shop where iron, old rags, bottles, bones, and greasy offal were bought. A grey-haired rascal of great age sat smoking his pipe. A woman with a heavy bundle slunk into the shop. What do you call this? Bed curtains? His blankets? They'd have wasted it by dressing him up in it if it hadn't been for me. Scrooge listened to this dialogue in horror. Spirit, I see. The case of this unhappy man might be my own. My life tends that way now. Merciful heaven, what is this? The scene had changed. The ghost conducted him to poor Bob Cratchit's house and found the mother and the children seated round the fire. Quiet, very quiet. The noisy little Cratchit were as still as statues in one corner. And he took a child and set him in the midst of them. Where had Scrooge heard these words? He had not dreamed them. The boy must have read them out as he and the spirit crossed the threshold. The mother laid her work upon the table and put her hand up to her face. The colour hurts my eyes, she said. I wouldn't show weak eyes to your father when he comes home. It must be near his time. Past it rather, Peter answered, shutting up his book. But I think he has walked a little slower than he used these few last evenings, mother. I have known him walk with Tiny Tim upon his shoulder, very fast indeed. And so have I, cried Peter, often. But he was very light to carry, and his father loved him so it was no trouble at all. And there is your father at the door. She hurried out to meet him, and little Bob, in his comforter, he had need of it, poor fellow, came in. His tea was ready for him on the hob, and they all tried who should help him to it most. Then the young Cratchit got upon his knee and laid, each child, a little cheek against his face, as if they said, Don't mind it, father, don't be grieved. Bob was very cheerful with them, and spoke pleasantly to all the family. He looked at the work upon the table, and praised the industry and speed of Mrs. Cratchit and the girls. They would be done long before Sunday, he said. Sunday? You went today then, Robert? Yes, my dear, returned Bob. I wish you could have gone. It would have done you good to see how green a place is. But you'll see it often. I promised him that I would walk there on a Sunday. My little child, my little child. He broke down all at once. He couldn't help it. The ghosts of Christmas yet to come conveyed him a dismal, wretched, ruinous churchyard. The spirit stood among the graves and pointed down to one. Before I draw nearer, answer me one question. Are these the shadows of things that will be, or are they shadows of things that may be only? Still the ghost pointed downward to the grave by which it stood. Men's courses will foreshadow certain ends. Scrooge, trembling as he went, followed the finger and read upon the stone of the neglected grave his own name, Ebenezer Scrooge. No, spirit, oh no, spirit, hear me. I am not the man I was. I will honour Christmas in my heart and try to keep it all the year. Holding up his hands, he saw an alteration in the phantom's hood and dress. It shrunk, collapsed, and dwindled down into a bedpost. Yes, and the bedpost was his own. The bed was his own, the room was his own. Best and happiest of all, the time before him was his own, to make amends in. He was checked in his transports by the churches, ringing out the lustiest peals he had ever heard. Running to the window, he opened it and put out his head. "What's today?" cried Scrooge, calling downward to a boy. "Today? Why, Christmas Day!" "It's Christmas Day. I haven't missed it. Do you know the Porterers? In the next street but one, at the corner?" "I should hope I did." "An intelligent boy, a remarkable boy. Do you know whether they've sold the prize turkey that was hanging up there? Go and buy it, and tell them to bring it here. I'll give you £0.50. The boy was off like a shot. "I'll send it to Bob Cratchit's. He shan't know who sends it. It's twice the size of Tiny Tim." In the afternoon, he turned his steps towards his nephew's house. He passed the door a dozen times before he had the courage to go up and knock. "Is your master at home, my dear?" said Scrooge to the girl. A nice girl, very. "He's in the dining room, sir, along with mistress." "He knows me," said Scrooge, with his hand already on the dining room lock. "I'll go in here, my dear." "Why, bless my soul!" called Fred. "Who is that?" "It's I, your Uncle Scrooge. I have come to dinner. Will you let me in, Fred?" Let him in? It's a mercy he didn't shake his arm off. He was at home in 5 minutes. Nothing could be heartier. Wonderful party, wonderful games, wonderful unanimity, wonderful, wonderful happiness. But he was early at the office the next morning. Oh, he was early there. If he could only be the first, and Bob Cratchit coming late. And he did it. Bob was full 18 minutes and a half behind his time. "Hello," growled Scrooge in his accustomed voice, as near as he could feign it. "What do you mean by coming here at this time of day?" "I'm very sorry, sir. I am behind my time." "You are, indeed. Yes, step this way, if you please."